Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience, a motivational podcast relating to the insurance brokerage industry and business in general. And now, here's Bill Levinson.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. Here we are on a Friday afternoon, and I'm sitting with a good friend of mine, an agency of ours, right, that works with Levinson and Associates and our team. And I'm very, very excited about today's episode, number 51. So we have Mr. Dawson Sullivan from Sullivan Insurance Group joining us. This is going to be a fun 30 to 45 minutes here. Before I turn it over to him and let him say a few words, I just want to tee him up for a second. We'll toot his horn. So what I want to do is back up for a second and just talk about how this whole thing came up, right? I met Dawson now. It's been over the phone. It's been probably about 6 months or maybe 6 to 8 months ago. And I have a great friend of mine that I've known for almost 20 years, and he happens to be, and when I met him, he was Tony Robbins' right-hand man, and I was a huge Tony fan, my whole life. In fact, I even had a tattoo with one of Tony Robbins' quotes. So, I literally eat, breathe, sleep, Tony Robbins and the motivation, the inspiration. So about 20 years ago, like I said, I met Coach Mike Savage from a mutual friend, and we became great friends, and he helped me with so many things on so many levels. And we always kept in touch over the years, and to watch him and see him grow, over the last 20 years has really been amazing. I know he's going to be listening to this as well, so I'll toot his horn too. But it's funny. So about 8 months ago, he says to me, Bill, he's like, I want you to meet this guy. He's a younger guy. He's like 25 years old, and he's got the hustle. He's smart. I heard him speak to a huge classroom of prospects, and he's got a nice book of business, very professional and very enthusiastic. And he's like, it kind of reminds me of you. And I'm saying to myself, right away, right? Not to put anyone down, but I'm like, wow, 25 years old to be at that level, right? Because I remember when I was 25, I thought I was pretty good for my age, but still, I had a lot to learn. And, and then you look at me today, and, I've come a long way. So I'm like scratching my head saying, Mike, coming from you, this means the world, right? And I believe everything you say. I'm like, I got to meet this guy, right? But there's always that little bit of doubt in your mind, like, really, at this age, he's that high on the scale? So anyway, we spoke on the phone, and Dawson starts to work with our team, and he starts knocking it out of the park, doing such a great job. And I was like, wow, Mike, you were right about this guy. And then he starts to work some of our orphan leads in the program, which we give away free, by the way, once you're at $10,000 a premium. And he started to convert some of these orphans. And I'm like, this guy's the real deal. Then fast forward, I don't want to take too much time, but we fast forward to the Agent Expo, which was about a month ago in April. And I asked Dawson, number one, are you going to be there? And of course, he attended the expo. And I said, I'd love to have you on the agent panel. For a younger guy, I think it would be great for the audience to hear from you. Not just the younger agents, but also the middle-aged agents and the veteran type agents, right, can also learn how to move the needle when it comes to selling online or through a Zoom call or through social media ads, whatever it is. So Dawson said, Bill, absolutely, I'm in. So it turns out we had the expo. It was on a Friday. The night before, we do a big dinner for the out-of-town agents. Dawson was there, met him in person for the first time, and everything that was said about this man was exactly true, okay, if not more so in person. And I was really blown away. And I'm not trying to build him up. This isn't some kind of infomercial. It's for a long time, and I try to be as authentic as possible. But at his age, and then to see him speak on this panel and the value that he brought to the table and brought to the agents in the audience, which we had almost 300 people there, I was blown away again. And then I interviewed him at the end of the day on camera, which is in our expo video. And then I said, Dawson, man, you got to be on our podcast. So here we are today, right, recording the podcast on May 10th. And I want to thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being you. And thank you for always extending your hand out to help our agents, our other agents out there, that some of them you started working with, and you've done a great job. So I appreciate everything you have done for us, for the team, for yourself. So I want to just start off by saying thank you. And you want to say a few words before we jump in here?
Man, that's a good guess, Bill. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. This is a luxury, to be very honest with you. Anything for the Levinson family, from the start when I met Michael and then the transition to this, I was even a little suspect at the same time, right? Because my previous experience was maybe 5 or 6 IMOs at this point. I was kind of traversing through, getting as much knowledge as I can, getting the pros and cons. And the second I get to Levinson, it was, it's home. So I call you, I call Carrie, the entire family. You guys are family to me. So this is a no-brainer for me to be able to come on here and do it, and I appreciate the opportunity.
No problem at all. I appreciate you helping us, and most important, helping our agents out there. We have over 23,000 agents, all age ranges, and then we have thousands and thousands of people listening literally from across the globe, and some are not even in the insurance business. So my goal is that every person today that listens in walks away with nuggets. Write down notes. Use your notes app. Obviously, you can go back. We're on all podcast channels, so you can literally hit the rewind button and listen to a point again 2 or 3 times. And then Dawson is also available. I'll just say this real quick so I don't forget. He's available if you want to team up with him or be in one of his chat rooms. He does these group calls and sessions that we'll share at the end. But just kind of keep that in mind as we go. And like I said, even if you're not an insurance agent, maybe you're a younger guy or girl starting your own business, I think you can learn so much from this guy, today, because he has proved himself over and over in a very short time. And I'm super impressed. All right, so Dawson, real fast, I appreciate those comments, by the way. Let's back up. Let's take everyone back. I call this first gear. How did it all begin for you, and how did you even wind up in this crazy business of ours? Let's take it back.
That's a great question. I had on my resume was, I was in the Marine Corps. I was doing that as a reservist right out of high school. So I had that. My mom and I have had Geico, or our family's had Geico for years. So I was like, hey, why not? Government employees insurance company. And so I put an application in, and I got onto the sales team, and I started selling car insurance there. And the environment alone was just a place that I wanted to stay. But you take the opportunity for early wage. I didn't realize how much of a beast I was when it came to the sales environment, just being authentically myself. But you give a 19-year-old $90,000, let's just say I already blew through all of it. But the experience that I had in the auto industry and the P&C side, that's where it all began. So I quickly came up. Leadership's always been a thing. There was a term that one of my favorite mentors gave me, and it was, I don't bleed on green. I bleed on significant, meaning if I can pour into other people and uplift, and you have this level up, and you take that to different levels as you keep going, and you see this environment of people that have a like-minded mindset keep going, that's nothing but profitable for everyone involved. So I went up to supervision, and then I obviously got range into the service, home, cycle, renters, and at some point right before COVID, I felt that I was a subject matter expert. Well, not felt, feelings, let's keep that out of it, but I was a subject matter expert in all lines. So I have a 220 license. So I've always been the one to say, all right, what's the next step? What else can I learn? What else can I learn? And once I get one thing down, I just quickly move on to the other. So the transitions from that into health, life, and annuities, what we have now, I still keep my P&C side, but that's the origin. It was all over the phone. I didn't run anything in person, and so I completely flipped it from yin to yang, and now I'm meeting people in person. I'm still doing some conductions over Zoom, and getting into this space itself for the last couple of years. That's really where the whole niche is and the whole lies.
Wow, and I know that P&C license is not easy from what I hear.
Oh no.
Yeah. So wow, that's impressive. And tell us this. So you're focused on P&C back then, and then you started making the transition over to the life side, and that was with a career type company, agency, carrier?
Not necessarily. So I don't like name organization. I like to keep it as neutral as I can, right? Because it's all love. There's always people that are involved with good heart natures, and there's bad apples, good apples, right? So not to name the agencies, but I did go through a couple IMOs and FMOs, and for the lack of a better term, Mary Kay, an MLM or a Mary Kay in the sense I'd take the pink Cadillac approach. That was always the promise in it, right? So when I talk about the IMOs and the pink Cadillacs that I had, I'd go through a couple of these organizations, and they weren't home, right? It was purely a transactional relationship in the sense of I learn what I can, I take the pros, and I do my best to outline the cons and at least bring my stuff to it, but it wasn't something where I could plant my roots and really shut my stuff sense of it. Because it's definitely one of those places where if you don't find the right fit, you're never really going to shine.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And you were a younger guy in your early 20s, right, at this point?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was about 20, 21 transitioning into health, life, and annuity, so that was definitely a different field.
Wow. Yeah, that's about when I started too. Yeah. No, that's great. So here you are. You're trying to learn the business, and you're getting taught maybe instructions from a GA, and you really probably didn't understand. Is this the way it's supposed to be, or maybe it doesn't feel right inside, or you probably had no idea. So you just had to keep moving forward and trying new things and learning and talking to new people, and it was probably the only option you had, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, everything comes by trial by fire. Yeah. You're definitely going to learn through failure. FAIL is an acronym, first attempt in learning. Another shout out to my mentors for providing me with that. But you go through the trial by fire mindset, and you kind of learn on the fly that, hey, you're not really supposed to split commissions with everybody that you interact with. And it's just like, if you're the beast that's closing it, and you can do it by yourself, there's no real reason to introduce other individuals and other agents that might not be of value. Now you're watering down the total income because, it's not all that it boils down to, but it's the greatest part, right? It puts food on the table. So I had to learn very quickly that the commission rates and how downlines work and uplines and overrides and, the overall commission splits that come from the agents and the lead generation. I grew up in the environment of door knocking and cold calling. Here's your list of 10,000 people, figure it out. Right. And I did have that over the phone experience for Geico, thankfully, right? The mentorship and development process there is above anything that I could even relate it to. But then I transition over and I'm doing the cold calling, I'm doing the door knocking. And then as we're generating and trying to figure everything out, it was a completely different environment. So then as I'm going through each one and I'm learning what's working best, I look back on it as an opportunity of growth. Right, it's nothing to get sour over, but it definitely sits on you like, man, wow, that's one of the best learning experiences. I'm glad I didn't stay there and I actually got to venture out.
Yeah. I feel like I hear this story so many times. Right, it's been my life for almost 25 years now, and I have a lot of friends, right, that look at me like, Bill, I want to get involved in your business, and they really don't understand the way it works. And I always tell my friends and even agents that call in that are newer, that just maybe got their license, and I say typically the way that you should learn the business is it's okay to work for one of these career companies or captive, IMOs or agencies. Learn the ropes, even if the commissions are 20, 30, 40%, it's okay because, in return, you're getting this learning lesson. And you're having someone go out on appointments with you, and but just make sure after a year or two or three that you can get out of this career or captive contract, and then you can come to me or go independent or work with someone like a Dawson or whatever it is. But it's important to learn the ropes first, and then you need to come to an independent IMO that hopefully is us or someone like us that tells you the real story, and that's when. The typical commissions you should be earning and not splitting a case 17 ways with 10 uplines, which I hear people do that for years and years and years because they just don't know the other side and nobody told them the whole story. So I hear that all the time, Dawson. I appreciate you sharing that. Let's switch gears again and just let everyone know, like, how did this whole thing come up? How did you meet us? How did you come across us? Who told you about us? How did that happen?
So Michael Savage, my wife worked for Michael for many years, right? So we have a really good relationship with the overall family. So Michael, he, just like how I say it in the humblest way, but I've always been a passionate individual. I've always been very quick. I've always been able to retain things, and I thank my mother a lot for the silver tongue that she blessed me with, and then the ways of speaking, right? But I also had some of the development from Michael Savage on the public speaking aspect. So he saw what I was going through, and he's listening to some of the stories, and he just said, "Hey, man," in good Mike fashion, "Hey, man, I got this guy, Bill. He's a great friend." He talked about the 20-year relationship you guys had. He says he runs the IMO right now, and this is some of the products he has, and I just want you to entertain your own research, take a look at it. And I took about 2 weeks or so to really delve over everything. I got to meet Andrew Paris, and just the introduction, right? Just the immediate rapport building techniques that we had there with establishing a good relationship made me feel incredibly comfortable. But I always had that mindset of, oh, what's coming next? Where's the hot spot, right? Where's the negative? I'm waiting to see it, right? And in a very pessimistic way. And I just never really found that. So as I keep going, it's like we never ended our cupcake phase, right? So I definitely give a lot of this to Michael, because I wouldn't have found you guys without that immediate referral, I guess you could say, right? Or just kind of give me the ventures, and then to see me transition. And I know he saw the light back in my face, or the light back in my eyes, right? As I'm starting to talk about all the good things and generating the business, I'm starting to see what really things should look like. But that's where it all kind of dates back to. That's where it all comes from.
I love it. I love that. And you're right. You naturally, it's like you look into these business models. It doesn't have to be life insurance. It doesn't even have to be an insurance agency, but you're always like, okay, it looks shiny and pretty on the outside, but once you dive in a little bit, oh, I didn't know about this part. Oh, yeah. You got to sign a captive contract or whatever. But I totally get it. And we do exactly the opposite of that. There's no small print or gray area just for that reason. And what's interesting too is, so Mike Savage, Coach Savage, we call him, we had a podcast episode with Mike and one of our top GAs, Emmanuel, that was like 2 months ago. And it was great. We did it live here in the conference room. In fact, if you all want to check that out, I think you would enjoy it. It's number 49. But here's what's so interesting. So after the podcast, I'm in my office talking to Mike, and I'm like, Mike, I really appreciate you coming down here and doing a great job. And I said, what can I do? I got to be able to do something for you. I so appreciate your time. And he's a busy man. He's involved in a lot of projects. And he's like, Bill, he looked at me. He said, Bill, I don't want anything. You're a friend of mine. He said, just take care of Dawson. And that's it. And I was like, wow, okay, no problem. And of course, we were going to take care of you anyway. But to hear that from him, it shows how much you mean to him, meant so much to me once again. So the whole story is great. And I think the big lesson here, it's just doing the right thing. Everything rises to the surface. And I feel like, there's karma, good or bad, indifferent, whatever. Do the right thing, and everything comes around. It might take a year, it might take 10 years, a week, 2 months, but ultimately, I feel like the good floats to the surface, and there's a great story behind it. So, yeah. Okay, all right, let's switch gears again. Tell us a little bit about your business model today, Dawson. If you can share that with the audience, that would be great.
Sure, that's a fun one. So I might be showing my age a little bit, but I've always been a fanatic over superheroes growing up, right? My favorite superhero is always Spider-Man. It's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So as soon as I go into the whole independent atmosphere and I want to open up a brokerage, the immediate thought in my head was, friendly neighborhood insurance agent. Because for me and our family, it was definitely a little bit different. We had a very rural-sized family, very close-knit, right? But as far as like the development, yes, and the people that directly, I have 3 aunts who are nurses, right? So you talk about range, we don't have an insurance agent in the family. So when I start to take on that role and really helping folks out in my side and my immediate family and my friends, I wanted to take that and provide that same service out to everybody that I interact with. I've always kept you and I talk about it, I do a little bit too much good, in the sense where, I'm not necessarily looking out for myself, but I'm looking out for myself when I look out for the other people, right? Or anybody that I actually sit down and enjoy it. So the business model is just the friendly neighborhood aspect, right? I want to be a family broker. I want it to be like you have someone you can lean on. My rapport building techniques and just the overall attention to detail is paramount to me, right? But it's ultimately making sure that everything is a gain. Is it the best fit? Is it whatever lines it may be? I like the one-stop shop aspect. So with me having all lines and keeping that up, there's a big retention effort in that, right? I don't really have to do too much retention when you think the old term is bundling, right? I'm not really bundling anything, but having all this business in the same house and creating a great relationship, I don't really see too much loss of or too many chargebacks, right? I don't see loss of clients in a sense. But it all dates down to how can I properly service this individual, this household, and what can I do to make sure that everything's taken care of for lifetime, right? Being 25, I'm not going anywhere. So I kind of see that as like a lifetime journey.
Yeah. No. That's interesting. So you feel like you have all bases covered when it comes to what, life, health, annuities, and then P&C as well?
100%.
Wow. I'm sure that keeps you busy. Yeah, and it is smart because you don't have to worry about you saying, oh, I don't get into the health side, and next thing you know, your client that loves you and you love them wind up going to another agent for the health, and then they get pitched for a life product, and then boom, you just lost a client. So
exactly.
I think that's smart. I think if you can handle it, that's awesome. And I know you also are working with other agents today. So do you want to let the audience know a little bit about that side as well?
Yeah, 100%. So my mindset is to do no wrong, keep it good as far as you can. I've always had the mindset of align yourself with people with like-minded mindset, right? Have people who have the same goals, the same drive, the same passion, who just want to be the best, but also want to take away. This industry is huge, right? There's probably more than 300, 400,000 agents countrywide. But the actual ocean that we're fishing in, right? There's a lot more fish in the sea, if you will, the old expression. We're not really going to step on each other's toes a lot. So if I can take myself and I run this meeting every week, I call it the Level Up Experience, Level Up podcast. Let's just start with Level Up, right? Make it easy. But I have these agents coming in. Most of them I met through the expo. Some of them were agents from past experiences in other lines. And I just talk about what I'm doing, right? I just try to be a support, a resource. So they're like, hey, this is what I'm working on. I need to know how this all works. And for me, right, I don't ask them to join the downline. I don't ask them to throw me on the app or figure that out, right? It's just, what can I do? How can we figure this out? It's a puzzle. And ultimately, you think of like the apprenticeship role. Sometimes with the other agencies, when you first get started out, you're taking lower commissions. That learning experience is paramount. So if I can run this and I have somebody come in and I find out something that I've never heard before because I strategically align myself with those people, and I didn't make it a transactional relationship, I just value the interaction, making sure that everybody's winning. I learned stuff from that too, right? Because it's always, what can I take on? I'm a human sponge in a sense, and just keep pouring it in. So we run that every week, normally, but that I just open it up, just whatever I can be of a resource, right?
That's great. How can the agents find you or find out the schedule, or is that on your Facebook page?
So not necessarily on the Facebook page. Most of the people who reach out to me, I always give them myself. I'm very personal, very traditional in that mindset, right? If you want to reach me, just text me or just give me a call.
Let's give that out right now before we forget, because we have a lot to talk about in a short time. So if you want to jot this down, 813-516-6229.
You got it.
Okay, perfect. And then also reach out, obviously, to our office anytime, and I would be more than happy to share his contact info as well if you want to join in on this call. What is it, like a Zoom platform or a go-to webinar or just a conference call kind of thing?
Normally it's Zoom. I had a membership, so I just send out a Zoom invite and I let the people come in. And I treat it, so I used to run calibration, right? I listen to call monitoring, my trending, my ineffective behavior analysis here, right? In the humblest form, but I sit there and I listen to these, and my attention to detail over the rapport building process and the strategies alone and what opportunities may be left on the table, I normally give that right back to the folks. So we just talk about experiences. I send out the Zoom, they jump in, we got this big call of individuals, most of them familiar faces, as they come in as new, obviously it's a unit. It's a team of individuals you can lean on. So there's an introduction, you get the relationship, you start connecting with other individuals, you get the contact information. Hey, I got this. Hey, I got that. What do you know? Right. So that's mainly what we do on the Zoom platform.
That's awesome. I love that. And I feel like, there's a gap in our industry. And we kind of hit on this earlier, but think about the newer agent, right? They just got licensed, fresh out of college or high school or the military, whatever it is. Okay. And there's not really a blueprint or an owner's manual in this business.
Right.
So it's almost like you have to go work for a carrier and be, 100% captive or a career contract through an agency, and you're handcuffed. And let's be honest. And then typically what happens is 2-3 years later, right, you want to leave and you just realize all of those clients, your book of business, stays with that agency. So it's almost like, yeah, did you learn the ropes? Sure. Did you build some new relationships? Sure. But now renewals, gone. Clients, gone. Book of business, gone. So what I like about this concept, and we never even spoke about this before, but I'm just right now came to my mind. So you kind of fill the gap, because think about like the younger agent, doesn't have to be younger, newer agent, we'll call it greener agent. Now it's almost like they have a place to go to learn, to innovate, to say, hey, does this sound right to you guys? I was just told this, and this. What's your thought? Or learn some strategies, or even team up with Dawson and his team, whatever it is. So or even think about, the agent in their 50s, 60s, right? They've been doing this forever. They might know the products better than me and you put together, but they don't know the latest strategies with, setting up a Zoom call or using a Facebook ad or whatever. So I don't know. I just love what you're doing, and I feel like it fills that niche so well. And I think it's a good idea for everyone to check it out at some time. So
I'm going to add on to that lightly.
Yeah,
I love
please.
that. And to add on to it, when you take, I'm not going to say younger agent, there's areas of inexperience or areas of opportunity, right? There are people who specialize solely in final expense, have done it for 50 years, and they just don't know IULs or annuities or vice versa, right? The yin and yang aspect to it. So you take an environment where you come in and you want to learn the ropes over new products and new ideas and new processes, just so you can, instead of do the trial by fire, you can benefit from the other individuals who have already earned, right? Or they've already developed this very solid strategy around it to be able to incorporate that right off the hand to get I call it a blueprint. You get the blueprint for what it looks like, what it should look like, how it's designed, how it works, and you just add on to it. And then as things change, we have those conversations, and you're not spending 7 or 8 months thoroughly trying to train this. You get into a client, you miss opportunity because you didn't know what to do with it. There's a lot of opportunity there. So if you can streamline it, here are the bullet points, here's what it does. That's what benefits everybody.
Love it. And here's a perfect example too. Think about, the middle-aged agent even, okay, that knows the business as good as me and you put together. And all of a sudden, 2020, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. I can't have these face-to-face, lunch seminars at Ponderosa Buffet anymore. I have to get comfortable with this thing called Zoom. I have to start marketing on social media because I used to meet all my clients face-to-face. What am I doing? So it's a perfect example. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, your age bracket, inexperience, how long you've been doing this and focused on advanced case planning. It's all of a sudden it's a new world. And you're kind of forced into doing things differently. So it's another great avenue for your platform, Dawson. There's so many reasons. I love it. All right, let's talk about real fast. Speaking of COVID and this whole pandemic, what did you, just looking at your business, 100-foot overview, did you see a lot of changes? Pre-pandemic, during, and now we're out of it. Did you see or everything kind of remain status quo for you?
Definitely some changes involved. So thankfully I grew up and my initial foundations in insurance were over the phone sales. So my rapport building aspects, we had a specific process for identifying their emotions and the overall need analysis. So I was already very keen in being able to just quickly revert back to that. However, my door opener being Medicare right? Because I have the all lines. I'll be able to network out to those individuals. All of my stuff is handwritten. So I'll do these handwritten presentations like a T-Pres, or I'll demonstrate the different lines of Medicare and how it bleeds over into these other different products that ultimately cross-sell, right? But also ensure that the full needs analysis and the information provided covers all segments. So to go from handwriting everything to the point I'm doing it upside down, kind of like a party trick, to now I'm transitioning into creating a PowerPoint and running these Zoom interactions, that's very difficult, right? I'm not tech savvy. I might be 25, but that doesn't mean my hands are 40, right? Or 50 or 60, 70. So creating the PowerPoints to demonstrate not necessarily the party trick, but the overall intention behind these presentations to show emphasis in my key products, it's a little difficult, right? I don't know if you've ever taken a pencil and tried to do an Apple pencil on a document, but it's not as simple and pretty. You know, it looks like chicken scratch. So that alone has been very difficult, to be able to take away the sit-down relationship. Some people are a lot more versed in in-person meetings. So to be able to develop yourself now in the over-the-phone interactions or the Zoom interactions, no cameras, whatever it may be, it's a learning process. And the biggest thing we can always expect, COVID's not a one-off thing, right? Like back in the 1500s, 1600s, that happened, right? So who knows what's next? But the most consistent thing in life is change. You always have to be ready for change. The moment you hit complacency will kill your business. So that's always been the thing. And I love my father and my dad for blessing me with that mindset very early on, because it's always been, all right, I got this down. What's next?
Love that.
So absolutely, since COVID, it's been a change.
Love that. I love that quote. Have strong beliefs and hold them loosely. You know, being able to pivot constantly. And that goes back to your point, Dawson. Love it. All right, good stuff. When I'm learning something too, I'm excited. I'm learning today. So this is great. Let's switch gears again, and let's tell everyone real quick, like where did you have most of your? Well, we heard about Coach Savage. We heard about your parents, and but most of the training, most of the discipline, where did that come from?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm not an avid reader. I love when Michael did the green eggs and ham presentation at your Xbox. That was great, because that was probably my reading level, right? But the big thing with discipline and training, two different avenues, two different lines of efficiency. So training, it's been leveraging the people around me. Michael Savage is the life coach, is the coach overall. He's been incredibly influential in the growth. But there's one person who, from the very start of my business, took this sporadic spray machine gunner and helped me laser pinpoint down to the bullseye and being consistent, right, giving me the foundation of it. And his name is Troy C. Smith. Troy has 20 years of sales experience. I met him at Geico, and he took this 19-year-old hotshot and really put me on the right mindset. I learned things from him that my Lord, I probably wouldn't have learned until I was 40 or 50, or may never even, right? So Troy, he's on YouTube, and I'll watch those videos because they're very uplifting. He's very hope-driven. It's an acronym, and his demonstrations around that and his actual sales process. Even I'm a big fanatic of Grant Cardone, of Tony Robbins, Michael, right? And I listen to them, and the approach that he takes in those is incredibly different, right? But it's also very hyper-specific to, let's say, just over-the-phone interactions, right? His ESPN analogy, that abbreviation, I won't give it out as sauce, but that changed the whole way that I interact with the phone. So that's one of the training environments that I had. That's a mentor that I've always leveraged. I'm doing his, since I'm helping other agents, I used to go through his leadership courses. And he launched out this Teach Model Coach leadership platform, and I just go in there for like the revamp. And I'm still learning new things. That just helps me keep the motivated mindset and also be cautious of the words, right? It's not a team. It's a team, not a downline sometimes, right? So that was one quick thing he got me on. But that's one of the big things in books. Oh, Lord. Atomic Habits, 40 Laws of Power, Mastery, right? 50th Law. I love 50th Law. Atomic Habits, like the whole aspect of you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your system, right? Or the old expression, all talk, no bark, or all bark, no bite, right? That's a big one, because the systems you have in place, you can want to be great. You can talk like you're great, but it's the execution that you falter and how you facilitate your day-to-day interactions. You talk discipline. That's foundation, right? That's stuff almost as if you have somebody like looking over you like, hey, man, check this out, right? Watch out for this. This is what you need to do. But it's very humbling. So those specific books, Way of the Superior Man for just the overall baseline for just how I'd interact, right? Relationship interactions with people, family, spouse. And then a couple podcasts, right? Like yours. We'll listen to a handful of different ones, just different. But those are the main lines where it keeps the discipline and training.
Do you prefer the audio book and listening or actually reading?
I do both, actually. So I dedicate a specific amount of time every day. So I'll do at least 30 minutes, or I'll go to the 2-page format if 30 minutes is like too short, right? Let's say a page and a half is 30 minutes or so. But I'll have the audio book with my AirPods, and I'll have the physical book in front of me, and I'll read and listen, because take the leadership aspect foundation of how you receive information. Are you audio, kinesthetic? Do you learn by read and write? Do you learn by visual, right? So you incorporate those two different learning styles. Just kind of streamlines the retention process.
Yep. No, I love it. You know what? It comes down to whatever works best for you. I think most important, just do it. And it's got to be every day. And no matter what, you've got to carve out that time, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If it's a book, podcast, you've got to stay in that mindset day in and day out. Otherwise, we get distracted. And next thing you know, you're trying to drive in a straight line and you're veering off to the right or left, and then a week is gone by, and then a month, and then you look back and you're like, wait a minute, what happened to all my targets, my goals? So those things are so important. I'm a big believer in that. Every single morning on the way to the office, I have 30 minutes of a drive, and I have to have something educational playing in my car, or else I'm like riding a horse in reverse around New York City, which won't happen for me. Not allowed. Okay, so moving forward, this has been great. A lot of great nuggets here. I want to talk about your main products. If we dive down a little deeper, like do you focus more on, is it final expense, mortgage protection, IUL, FIAs, MIGAs? Like what's your real like down and dirty focus when it comes to product talk? What would you say your go-tos are all the way around?
IUL.
Could even be PNC.
IUL all day. So even though I cover the all lines, one of the most difficult factors is finding a very solid source of generating leads, right? Whether it's going to farmers markets or selling a life insurance policy and then calling the beneficiaries to introduce yourself, right? Which if you're not doing, that's a nugget. That's been the most effective avenue of generating leads. But I'll buy a batch of leads, like the IUL ones. I'll sit down, I'll talk. And the main thing about Index Universal Life, and I major shout out to RJ at Levinson, because being the sponge I am, that's a tool. And that tool is that can do whatever you make it. So I've seen the origins of, mimicking infinite banking, like the Be Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. That's a great book. I took the foundations in that and incorporated that into IULs to the point where I really have a niche product that's not getting capitalized by any of the other agents, or at least not to the same caliber, right? And RJ really laid that out for me and showed me a lot of different methods and how you can use that for every specific type of person that's in front of you. But I'm the subject matter expert on that, hands down. That has been like one of the biggest generators, and I'm working on a Levinson record right now, which, you and I will talk in a couple of days once that's done. But that's the niche, man. Subject matter expert all day.
Unbelievable. I love it. And now, I'm scratching my head, saying to myself, guy's 25 years old. Now do you understand, everyone? Like, you got to say to yourself, look at yourself at 25. Were you speaking like this, writing production like this, helping agents like this, helping people like this? And it's not just words, because I've been under the covers. I know the whole story. I've seen the production. I know Coach Savage for 20 years. So this is the real thing. And I don't know. I'm just blown away. I'm gonna shift gears again and tell you a personal quick story. Something that happened recently. We had this agent, Tom, we'll call him. And Tom calls into our office and says, hey, I really need someone to help me write this case in a different state. And I said, I got, and Tom's a middle-aged older guy. And I said, I got the perfect agent for you that will help. So Tom speaks to Dawson, and right, we make the introduction, and Tom calls back, and he's like, he's a younger guy, and I really need someone that has more experience, a little more middle-aged. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, Tom, he knows his stuff. I'm like, even though he's 25, give him another chance. Again, and next thing you know, Tom calls us back and said, wow, this Dawson is unbelievable. You were right. I'm glad I listened to you. He's a rock star. And now they're working together on a few cases. So, now you can kind of put the pieces together and understand the reason why I wanted to have him on this call today. So, and Dawson, you know who I'm talking about, right? So,
yeah.
Anyway, I had to bring that up. I know you because it kind of outlines this whole story and just nails it down. Okay, let's keep moving forward. I know we're running a little late. So we spoke about the main products, the go-tos, but I also like how you have all the bases covered. I think that's important because you don't risk, losing a client and a relationship to another agency or agent. Let's talk a little bit about, social media, your website, online quoting engines. How important do you think that is for an agent or agency in 2024? How much of your business relies or depends on the platforms or any marketing, advertising?
That's a wonderful question, Bill, because think of it like this. Let's say you and I interacted. We sat down, we had a conversation, and I showed you, hey, this is how I can create generational wealth for you. And you're like, man, this sounds awesome. This is crazy. And you look me up online, and you find a LinkedIn page from 10 years ago with different types of industries from, let's say, I was selling health insurance only, right? Or I'm selling even medical experience, just maybe, and it's not anything specific to what I do. That creates this question mark over you, right? If they go on Instagram and they see one post, or you're posting these, you don't have a business page, and they see these different interactions that don't necessarily align, and it kind of shows a little bit of a better glimpse inside of where you're at, right? The branding, but again, question mark, it changes the perception. So ultimately, if you don't have a social media presence, if you don't have a business Facebook page through Meta, one, you're not running leads on them, but two, Instagram, LinkedIn, these people check you out, right? Google presence. Oh, my Lord, that actually has generated these random calls for me by just establishing my business on Google, aligning my website to it, my book, and putting a couple pictures. I went back to my old clients. Hey, I love it. I love our connection. I love what I've been able to do for you. I really appreciate it if you could share your experience in this review. Let me know authentically what it is. See people interact with it. And since Google, zip code based, but you put your different lines in there, now it's branching out. You take Insure Me Now Direct. I talked about this at the right? That in itself being an online product, you also have to be able to put it in the right area and make sure that it's generating in the right area. You don't want to throw it just in the website and tell people about it. If you have a good ad spend around it, it's going to a specific demographic. There you go, right? Right. Kids who might take care of their parents or somebody in that atmosphere. It's a lot easier for that generation, right? But the overall presence and having that question mark over you is paramount. People are going to look you up. They're going to see who you are, and that's going to be a deciding factor for them.
Yeah, 100%. That's a great point. Think about this. If you're put your consumer hat on, everyone, right? You're a prospect out there in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, right? And all of a sudden you get one of Dawson's Facebook ads or email blasts or whatever, right? And they see his little picture there in the bio, whatever. They have no idea who this guy is, right? And they're looking, at first glimpse, they're like, oh, he's a younger guy, good-looking guy, whatever. But how do I know that he has my best interest at heart? How do I know he knows the latest and greatest products that are available, right? How do I know? How are they going to know? It's called Google. And they're going to put in his name, and they're going to say, who is this guy? Right away. Yeah. Now, imagine if nothing shows up. I guarantee you that client in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, they're going on to the next agent, maybe a local agent even, whatever. Okay, but if they see this great website and these great social media pages with reviews and a picture of Shirley Johnson, from Tennessee, who said, "Wow, this Dawson really helped me," and it's a legit person. Guess what? They're going to pick up that phone. Yeah, yeah. So it is crucial. It is so, so, so important. And everything you do, you have to think about, you're sitting with a client or they're on the phone, whatever, and they say, "Wow, Bill, thanks so much. That IUL illustration, I couldn't believe I'm generating $180,000 at retirement age of 65. You're like a superhero." You got to literally say to yourself, "Wait, can you say that again? Do you mind putting together a testimonial and then take that and put it out to the masses?" Literally, that's how you have to think these days in 24, 25. We do it with our agents. I asked Dawson a few times, do me a favor. Do you mind sharing that on our Facebook page? I want other agents to see that and benefit from that. It's marketing. So
even very quickly on it.
Yeah.
When you think about a very successful agent, I'd like to say most agents now, and I could be wrong, don't buy leads. How do they generate leads? Referral, word of mouth. So you have this opportunity to take these testimonials and put them out there. They might not know the person who's speaking, but if you don't have that little Saul Goodman disclaimer at the bottom, this is a paid actor, if they don't see that, they'll treat it as authentic. And if they see 9 or 10 of them and you hear these different experiences, they can relate to something. Because people, real recognize real, right? They're going to see the authenticity of it. They're going to hear what you practice about, where you benefit. And not to say a herd mentality, but you take what are consumers most likely going to do? What other consumers are doing? So they take that and they're like, well, if they work in that atmosphere, I can relate to that. I need that. They call you. And you keep the same energy. It's all about consistency. But yeah, that word of mouth generation, even on the social media side, is huge.
Yeah, no, it is. It's priceless. It literally is priceless these days. That's your storefront. So you got to be consistent and persistent. And you can even do it on your own in the beginning, until you have the resources, do every single day, whatever it is, a YouTube channel, your own podcast even. You can, I have Positive Tuesday. It's just a quote I come up with. Come up with your own little educational piece, long-term care Thursday, IUL Monday, whatever. Throw out a few quotes, some one-liners, and again, it's just keeping your name in front of the masses. That's it. Yeah. Even if the masses are 7 people in the beginning, it's okay. And then, eventually.
Good plug.
You say it again?
Oh, sorry, Bill, go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, here's a good plug.
Yeah.
It's called Deliver It. DLVR.IT. Delta Victor Lima Romeo India Tango. It will post automatically on your social media pages to whatever your products are. It's not hyper specific, unless you pay like 99 cents a month. It's like $1 a month. But the free version, I use it, and it posts informational articles in all lines of insurance. You do it at least once a week. So then you have these continually fueling your pages, and then what do they see when they go on your page? They see an active individual. So you level that up with Positive Tuesdays, right, or informational Thursdays. Now you're having this positive online experience without the whole critical thinking aspect and concern of brand.
I love it. Yep. Which is so important at any level. If you're an independent agent working out there in the trenches, if you're a GA, an MGA, and you're trying to build your agent base, if you're us, we're doing this since 1972, 23,000 plus agents, we have to do it every single day. And we have to give back, and we have, for October, it's my birthday, so we do a breast cancer society, donation, and then a group picture all dressed in pink, and then we market that, and it's about showing, number one, you're doing the right thing. Number two, you're keeping your name in front of the masses. For us, it's our agents. For you, it's maybe agents and prospects, or maybe just prospects, whatever. But that's the name of the game. In any business these days, you got to be out there. You got to be in front of their face 24/7, or else the young hotshot agent or business person is going to get their name in front of your client eventually if you're not proactive. Okay, let's keep moving. So I love this question. So obviously we all know by now Dawson's a younger guy, 25, but he speaks like he's 55. So I love that part. But let's go back for a second and let's say, okay, here he is, right? The Dawson of today, if we went back to, let's say, right out of high school, the younger Dawson at 17, 18 years old, is there anything at that time that you would have or could have done differently to change your path and where you are today? Anything that you would have done a little differently? Telling the younger.
I'm going to take that holistically, because as a person, I like to I like to say I have high emotional intelligence, and I like to keep that over myself too, right? To keep myself in check. If I go back to my 18-year-old self, and I'd say anything, it's your brand is the most important aspect, and that brand boils down to the relationships you build with people. If you put people above everything, you take their needs, their wants, their desires, and you put that above that desperate mentality of getting business, you'll close everything that you touch. My closure, and this isn't a boast, it was 72%. It's been like that for the last year. I sit down with somebody, 72% closure, because I'm taking that time to go through everything. Now, granted, I have a little bit more range in products, but I'm not closing property and casualty. We're talking just strictly health, life, and annuities, right? But I tell myself it's that relationship aspect. Keep the humility about yourself, even if I'm not using that word right. Just stay humble, stay consistent, but focus on the relationships you build with people. And a lot of agents, there's the bleeding effect or the carryover effect where you don't make business, you stress, you have a financial need, you're not meeting your financial need. It carries over into your day-to-day practice, and what does that do? It changes you. When you get a win, and you close a policy on top of the moon, hopefully you don't back off. You're striking while the iron's hot. You're keeping moving forward, right? You're going out to do more and more and more because you got good positivity. But when you're not closing business, that eats at people. They become desperate. They carry over, and it affects their overall approach. If you can rid yourself of that, find one product, find one specific line, and just perfect it, and then add to the next thing, you'll be great. It took me a year and a half to head down, to rid myself of the desperate mindset. And I guarantee you that ultimately it changed everything. Right? I like to say I'm advanced now, but I can't fathom where I'd be if I did that.
I love it. I love that. So, and this is more for the audience, but let's say you're out there, listening to this, the two of us rant today, and you're going through that tough time, that tough week, the tough day, the tough half day, whatever it is. What do you do to snap out of that and get back in the zone? I know Tony Robbins talks about that trigger where you kind of pinch your earlobe, when you're on that high and you're in the best zone ever, and then he talks about making that trigger again so you can try to get back to that place. But yeah. What do you personally, what do you do to snap out of it? Because everyone goes through, the ups and downs. But what do you do to try to bounce back? Any suggestions?
I lean on the people I have around me. I have a wonderful surrounding of people, and it dates back to the relationship aspect, because I can't be the venter, right? Venting generates negative, or it may create animosity, right, or negativity in the relationship, and then they might kind of branch back. Like, oh, dude, all you bring is negativity, right? I think that's the seventh law. Weight loves power. But when you talk about how do you level yourself out, I remember, and this is a really good story back when I was 19. I was still in the Marine Corps, still a hot shot. But man, when people would not buy for me, and I sat there for 45 minutes, I throw my keyboard down on the table. It wouldn't be crazy, right? I'm not a madman, but I push my mouse forward, and that physical energy, just like how you said Tony Robbins pinch your ear, right? Or when you take a situation and that behavioral response and creating the resonance around that situation, I wouldn't throw things. I started laughing, right? Laughing is the best medicine. And I mean that. It sounds so corny, but if you can perfect that replacement of negative emotion with positivity, I do that now. I'll sit down, I'll read, I'll consult with my wife, I'll talk with my friends, my family, right? I align myself with good individuals, good people who I can lean on, and I'll just call and talk. I talk wins and I talk the negatives, right? The opportunity. So it's all about understanding this is not a race, it's a marathon, right?
Yep.
It's a marathon.
And a good support system is crucial.
Yeah.
And then that goes back to surrounding yourself with people at your level or even higher, and not having any anchors, anyone bring you down, which is another important part of that. So love it. Okay, so my last question here, and then we'll put a bow on this, is any personal or business stories, maybe something that you went through, something that happened to you, and that kind of helped you and put you in the place you're in today, or maybe rocketed you forward a little bit or a lot, or anything you want to share?
Yeah. I talk about, but my wife knows the story, my family knows the story, some of my close friends. But I brought up the term Pete Cadillac earlier, and that's not big in Mary Kay, but I just talk about like the selling the dream aspect. But when you take those people and you don't surround yourself with people who care about you and that just care about themselves, you put yourself in a position where always get the facts. Facts make for a short conversation, right? So know what you're going to get, know what you're going to see. But we went to the field one day. He was a Medicare client. I'm cold calling, and she was a VA nurse, right? So we had that relation aspect. I had the military experience. I was still going through my VA process. And I just started asking her questions. I was like, well, hey, I might not be able to benefit right now, but how can you benefit me here? And so it just created rapport and conversation. Well, ultimately, I found out her husband just passed. She just broke her hip. And she's like, I can't get access to it. He's got $275, and I need it. I need to figure it out. I don't know what to do. There's a selfish and a selfless mindset there. Selfish, right? What's the first thing we're going to go to? Oh, shoot, there's money in that house, right? So there's the desperate mindset. The selfless part was, I always keep true to this, but all you need is a death certificate, right? She had it on hand. You give that to the bank, now you have access to the account as the beneficiary. She was the wife, right? I go out to the house, I sit down with her, and we just talk it out. I help her get access to everything, and we just keep going on in conversations like, well, what are you going to do? She's like, oh, I don't know, I might put it here. And then she said the word annuity. I was like, well, okay. What are you talking about? How do you know that word, right? Kind of like a curse word sometimes. You avoid saying it. And she had over $700,000 in 4 different annuities. So I always keep this golden rule with annuities. Have a 70, 30, or 60, 40, depending on the income, split. You don't want to lock up the fund. Well, 95% of her funds are in annuities, right? And she's over here like asking people for money. She can't access it because all the withdrawal penalties. So she gets the money, and I'm like, hey, take this and let's just slow fund it, right? And I helped her figure out a good account to keep it in, just off the records, right? Like we did a synchrony savings account for APY. And then I figured out how to get the distributions from the annuities. A couple of them were out of surrender. Well, fast forward, my Pink Cadillac company, I can't talk and sell annuities without the presence of a financial advisor there. So, now I got to make a split. I got to split my commission. Even if I know how to do it, I can't, right? I bring this person out, sit down in the home. Well, this young lady, she was 4'10", she's Irish, right? Very good person. I love her. She had great energy. Broke her hip twice. This is like 2 months in the process. I had to bring the financial advisor out. And she had her pain medication, Budweiser. You call that mix, right? So now I'm like, this is probably like 30 minutes to the appointment. I find out the financial advisor finds a check. They take it. They go into the car, and they close a long-term care policy for themselves. I didn't know this until the day after. She calls me, and she's like, what is this? What's going on? How is this happening? I'm like, whoa. I talked to the FA, and he laughs, right? This is a real story. This is my first experience in the health life annuity side right after I go from PNC, one of the best companies I could have worked for at Geico. And I was disgusted, ultimately. And I called her. I apologized. I probably wasn't the best decision, but I brought her a case of Budweiser. I was like, I know something, right? It's Irish in you. And I just sit down and I apologized. I told her. And that day I put in my, I was a captive agent. I called my supervisor. I was like, let me go. I'm out. No, I'm out, man. I got a $700 chargeback on it. I got put on the case, apparently. So I reported the FA. I talked to her, and then she's like, go do your own thing. So I took that. Now I go a couple IMOs, but that's where the clover leaf comes from, the 4-leaf clover. She's Irish. She's like, embrace that. You got good red hair, right? And I love that. Take it later. You can do whatever it is. And I never get business out of the household, but I got a really good relationship. She just recently passed away. I can hear every now and again because, it's one of those regrets, one of those things that sit on you. If you have a really bad experience, hopefully nobody has to go through it, where somebody gets put in a position and you take that responsibility aspect. That stuff weighs on you. Thankfully, my errors and omissions didn't get hit, but I definitely showed her how to do it for the FA. So that's where the whole basis of where I'm at now. I'll never put myself in a position like that. I'll only align myself with people that I can see raw facts.
Unbelievable. That's a great. I have the goosebumps here. That's a phenomenal story, and I'm so glad you just shared that. That's a sign. That was a sign from up above, and you jumped in, you did the right thing, and look at the move that you made because of it, right? Because doing the right thing at the end of the day, back to full circle, what we started with, and that was phenomenal. And it just goes to show you, when you don't do the right thing, look at the outcome, and it's a matter of time, before you get caught or rises to the surface in a negative way. So I love that. And I feel like, doing the right thing, being a good person, those signs come. Like that woman was put in your life for a reason, and you helped her, she helped you, was a win-win, and it shifted you to the next level of this industry. And then many levels. So thank you, Dawson, for sharing.
Of course. I mean that, and then this is a good little level, but this path, I say that to myself a lot and keep some balance. I didn't say that earlier, but, if you ask for patience, you're given opportunities of patience. You're not getting pixie dust of patience, right? So everything's a learning experience, and there are opportunities that are put in front of you for sure.
Yeah,
that's definitely how I took that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you as a person, as an individual, you have to be open to these signs, and you got to jump in and make the change, else you might not get another shot, or story to tell like this. So just love it. I love that story. I'll remember that. So we're going to wrap this up right now. Dawson, I have a couple last points here. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before the boat comes out?
Take those pieces and then read the books. And Atomic Habits change your life. I mean that sincerely.
Right? James Cleary,
people.
Dawson?
Yes, James Cleary, yes.
Yeah, he's great.
Yes, John Maxwell, leverage him as well. But, yeah, that's what I leave you with. If you're in a position where you're not aligned with people who are to you, or beneficial for you, you need to walk away with a smile on your face. And that sounds so corny, right? It's not so corny. We're all sales agents at the end of the day, but most of us are professionals. If you can do that and you walk away with the best feeling every single day, those days that are a little tough, you get caught up on things, they won't hurt you so much, 100%. Yeah. But also to you, Bill, I appreciate this opportunity, man. This is amazing.
Anytime, and we're going to do this again. This was fun. I love what you're doing. I love the hustle, and I got to give Mike Savage credit. He was right about you, and you've more than impressed me and impressed a lot of our agents already. So keep up the great work. And to the audience, again, I mean, we learned a lot today. It's doing the right thing. It's being able to shift and pivot, right? And as soon as you figure out one side, you got to look at, hey, what's next? And remember those trigger points, because we all have those down days, and you got to bounce out of it, or else it could be a down year, and nobody wants that. So let's learn from this. Some of those books Dawson mentioned are great. I've read them myself. Let's write down these nuggets and literally pivot and make this the best year ever. If you have any questions for us, reach out anytime. We now have a staff of 27 in 4 different states. We're here to help every step of the way. And again, if you want to team up with Dawson or even be in one of his sessions, we can share that info, his website. If you want to jot this down, SullivanInsGroup.com, and then I'll give you his cell one more time in case you want to reach out direct, 813-566-6229. Dawson Sullivan, thank you again. You are literally a rock star. Love what you're doing, and looking forward to doing this in another year from now and seeing the growth once again.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, and
thank you, Bill.
Of course, anytime. Let's keep our foot on the gas. Thanks for spending this hour with us. Bill Levinson Experience Podcast, episode 51. Great selling. Thank you again.
Thank you for joining us for the Bill Levinson Experience. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested. You may also visit levinsonandassociates.com and all of Bill Levinson's social media pages for more information.